What was a fact you were taught in school that has now been disproven?
In college, you're only allowed to write in cursive. Lol, that's bullshit. My third grade teacher would strike the backs of my hands with the edge of a metal ruler until they were covered in red lines because I had trouble learning cursive. This was strictly prohibited by the school system's policy, but the principal persuaded me not to tell my parents because she's old and set in her ways. Cursive will be that important when you're an adult, and you don't want to get in trouble at home as well, right?
Premature birth is a birth defect. I took a child development class in high school, and the teacher assigned everyone an essay. Mine was on birth defects. We were told to use our books for information. I wrote in my essay that the book was wrong. Premature birth in and of itself is not a defect. She gave me a bad grade and wrote a long diatribe in red ink about how the book is right, and I need to accept that. About 4 years later on CNN, a doctor was talking about how premature birth isn't a defect. I thought about being petty and demanding that my grade be changed, but I had already graduated and it was kind of pointless.
All fat was bad for you, so fat-free foods became a thing for a while.
We were taught the story of Rosa Parks. In our version, she was a simple woman who worked in a department store. After a long day of work, she sat in the whites-only section of a bus because there were no seats in the colored section. When told to move, she decided that she was too tired and refused. She was arrested, and that led to the Montgomery bus boycott, one of the most famous events in the civil rights movement. It was years later that I learned she was a civil rights activist with a long history of protesting. She made a conscious decision to sit in the whites-only section knowing she would be arrested. It does not make her actions any less heroic.
A lady in Baton Rouge, Martha White, did it 2 years before Rosa Parks, and she really was just tired. That started a bus boycott, and Martin Luther King Jr. heard about it and was inspired.
Arguably, it makes her more heroic. She knew the consequences of her actions, that she would likely be arrested or harmed, that people would be upset and threaten her. It's kind of sad that I grew up as a Canadian with a small understanding of Rosa Parks, but absolutely no knowledge of the Black Panther Party.
Giant squids aren't real. I wrote a report on them in middle school, and my teacher made me rewrite it because she said I could only cover something that existed. Needless to say, my distrust for authority started young, and every time I see a news report on one, I think of her.
Interesting. I also did a report on element 118, then known as an unoctium. Some Russian scientist at Berkeley in 1998 had rammed fused lead and krypton together, creating the heaviest known element for a fraction of a second. I wrote a whole 2-page paper, which in 7th grade may have well been a multi-volume epic. Years later, I saw it had finally been renamed. I Wikipedia it and found out that Russian guy had lied and hadn't actually created anything. He fabricated the results for notoriety. Then the element was actually created in the mid-2000s by someone else. That jerk made me wrong on my tediously long paper.
T-Rex had huge teeth showing all the time. Recently, this has been shown to be false. T-Rex had lips like any other lizard or dinosaur. My whole life has been a lie ever since my first little plastic dinosaur toy in cartoons.
Dinosaur lips. My life is complete. The lips versus no lips argument was being debated back then. Spielberg took the no lips route since it made for a better monster. And as we all know, if it's on TV, it's real.
Any website that has .org at the end is credible.
I had a .org site that I just posted gaming stuff on, so I knew that one was BS. They also always said not to trust Wikipedia, but I know who I'd trust between them and .gov right now. At least Wikipedia gives citations to follow.
The food pyramid as a healthy nutritional model. 30 years later, I still occasionally catch myself analyzing my meal choices against the food pyramid.
A pizza is the literal embodiment of the food pyramid, so I choose to believe it's still ideal.
I took an awesome class in college where we all played different roles as groups involved in the creation of the food pyramid. I was the dairy lobby, one of the best classes I took.
That my ability to be employed and how much money I could make would be directly correlated with how many words per minute I could type. The amount of time we spent in school sitting at giant electronic typewriters would be hard to calculate. Endless typing tests. Teachers made it sound like unless I could type at least 60 words per minute, I would be homeless and destitute. Guess how many employers have tested my typing speed in my entire life? 0.
Dare told me people would give me free drugs to get me hooked. I'm still waiting, 35 years later.
In my public school, we were taught that Hebrew slaves built the pyramids. Not only have we found that the pyramids were not built by slaves, but if Hebrews were in Egypt, they were there centuries after the pyramids were built. I was also taught that I wouldn't just have a calculator on me at all times.
The food pyramid was a bunch of nonsense created by lobbyists, and the government just went, sure, let's educate all our children based on that when it comes to nutrition.
Why subsidize grain farmers when we can get the kids to do it?
The food pyramid was made by the USDA, which, surprise, surprise, had the purpose of promoting American agriculture. Health, nutrition, and so on are through DHHS. So naturally, the Department of Agriculture wanted to promote a grain and carb-based diet, as American farmers grow those crops. They also wanted to demonize fats, as fat-free versions of foods tend to have even more carbohydrates. In reality, the best diet is based on fruits, legumes, and vegetables. Grains, dairy, and meat definitely have their place in a well-balanced diet. Processed foods are the real demons.
The solution to dealing with bullies is to ignore them. But it's a great solution. For the lazy adult who's more bothered by your complaint than by the bullying. When I was in school, I was picked on. I did what I was told and tried to ignore them. Eventually, I was pushed too far. One of them yanked my ear because it would cause them to go bright red. I flipped out and punched the guy. It ended with him on the ground and me still standing. They stopped picking on me after that.
Reminds me of the first Spurn Notice episode where Michael teaches a kid how to deal with a bully and his posse. He lies down on the ground and protects vulnerable spots until they grow complacent, then has him punch the bully multiple times. According to Michael, taking out the leader works with school bullies and third world dictators. The rest of the posse doesn't do anything.
Men have fewer ribs than women. I went to a private Christian school. Editing to clarify. I just considered it fact for myself because when you grow up never hearing anything different, you never even think to doubt it. I was an embarrassing 23 years old before I ever heard anyone say anything to the contrary. I literally remember where I was, what I was wearing, who said it. It completely baffled me at the time. At the time, they said margarine was healthier than butter.
Tongues having different areas for taste. Edit. I've lost count of the replies from people just learning this.
I remember learning that. I went home and tested it out, decided they were wrong, and moved on. I'm still surprised it took so long to debunk that.
Oh wow, I didn't even know that had been disproven. It was just a bad visual aid that got presented as hard fact because no one has any critical thinking skills, and kids believe what you tell them. Eventually, it got telephone gamed into textbooks.
That humans have only 5 senses. We were taught sight, hearing, smell, taste, and touch, but science now recognizes many more, like proprioception, knowing where your body is in space, balance, vestibular sense, temperature, pain, and time perception.
Learning I before E, except after C in English, then going to science class was particularly frustrating. But I don't know if that counts as it being disproven or if it was just always wrong.
Left brain and right brain ideas, and learning style assessments.
The different hemispheres having different functions is not nonsense. But if you just mean in regards to classing people and learning styles, then yes.
Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button. It really helps. Subscribe for more and tap the bell so you don't miss the next one.